I am honored. Greetings.
I am honored. Greetings. May the stars guide you. Peace be with you. Go in peace.
We need to get closer. That spell is
incredibly well executed. So if you want to give this a try against your friends as well, or maybe you can just host a custom lobby and find some players there. Okay, now he's going to be able to get that top bar ability. If you search for All-Stars Co-op PvP mod by King Cobra, you should be able to find it on the European servers. And you can try this out. Okay, so there's the avatar. I think it's called Avatar anyways. This is an incredibly powerful unit. Not exactly sure how it's gonna play out right here. Anyways, all of the Protoss heroes have assembled. Mojo is here, Talus, Clolarian, Warbringer, Caldalis, Talis. Phoenix himself obviously on the battlefield as well in Dragoon form. I think this is all of them. I think there's 8. Wait, where's Probius? My god, these Tesseract monoliths are too strong though. Are you gonna go for the counterattack, Zeratul? I'm not 100% sure if I agree. Well, there's that Avatar of Form being thrown into the mix as well. It's spawning these charged crystals, and oh my god, is that a... That's a dead Protoss army. Oh my god, okay, the Avatar of Form just basically destroyed everything. I mean, there's a couple units here as well. I don't want to, like, trash talk the ambushers, but, seems to me that these units are pretty powerful. Zeratul was already thinking about going for the counterattack, and I think that was indeed the right call. He's gonna go into the natural expansion. I think you gotta pull probes early if you want to pull them at all. Look at this. The Patience or Kondiniak as well. He's gonna teleport and, yeah, use the strike. It's the 1-2 punch, man. You wait until the workers get pulled. Seems to be the right call, and now these structures also get teleported across. Actually, I think you can teleport them straight here if you want to, but I think this is actually one that he's dedicating to the natural expansion of his opponent. Oh my god, this is insane. These Tesseract monoliths are so strong. Obviously, co-op was made with cooperation in mind, right? May have guessed it by the name. This is a little bit different. And it turns out that Zeratul is a little bit better than Phoenix. Yep, just a tiny little bit. I liked the fidget spinner attack earlier, though, at the beginning of this match that killed all of the probes, but apparently it turns out you don't really need much of an army as long as you have Zeratul himself. Now at 147, 148 confirmed kills. It is going to be Cordiniac who obtains the victory. Alrighty, so here we go. We are on Daybreak, and it looks like we've got 2 Zerg players. Nice, at least judging by the creeps. So spawning here in the top right-hand corner of Daybreak. Playing with the... I was going to say the pink Zerg drones, but I guess it is the pink Zerg SCVs. It's a little bit strange. We're looking at none other than Yorono's main base, and Yorono is going to be playing with Stukov. So Stukov is going to be able to spawn a gajillion minions very, very quickly, very early on into this game. Not exactly sure how that works though, right? Because by the time that you send these units across the map, they're gonna be timed out, right? They all have like a death timer, and as soon as the timer runs out, they will... Alright, anyways, his opponent in the opposite corner, yeah. You could set the beacon over here, so this is Yorono's beacon, but it's not gonna achieve much. Anyways, playing right here with the... What is this? The teal, the cyan, whatever you want to call it. The light blue Zerg drones. We are looking at none other than Zeliath. Zeliath is going to be playing with Zagara. Alrighty. I think that this one is going to be pretty cutthroat, right? Because Zagara, I mean, she can only have 100 supply worth of stuff, if I'm not mistaken. And basically, yeah, she gets free units everywhere. Like, for example, the Banelings, right? They periodically spawn into the battlefield. She spawns 2 drones at once as well, which is incredibly powerful. She spawns Zerglings extremely quickly. Whereas Yorono is going to have to rely a little bit more on his cooldowns. I'm assuming, yeah, he will have that cooldown ability at the top of the screen as well. So you will have the Apocalypse and like all of the other big cooldowns as well. The Alexander, the Infestation of the ability. I mean, it should be pretty cool. I actually like what he's doing here, going for a bit of a wall off. So we have an infested factory coming up. Most of the time, Stukov seems to be played by using his infantry, but he does have the longest range siege tanks in the game. Where the siege tanks can quite literally... Well, they shoot Banelings. Of course they do, right? That makes sense. They can quite literally shoot away from, like, you know, more than a screen. So, it's pretty powerful. Anyways, Zergling speed not coming up just yet. Zagara also hasn't expended yet. I would love to see an expo, because you're not really going to trade very cost efficiently. Yorono, though, has sent an SCV towards the bottom right corner of Daybreak, okay? Another SCV coming across as well. Wow, that was strange. These Banelings right here, not on counter, or not on attack move, rather. So, SCV almost got hugged there. Alright. So, are we gonna make a proxy command center in the bottom right-hand corner? Because it feels like that to me. There are a couple of upgrades as well in all of these structures, which are extremely good. You do kind of need a tech lab in order to research anything, though. But yeah, it is gonna be an infested command center in the bottom right-hand corner of the map. Okay. Here go the infested of Stukov. They basically just follow... Oh my god, I forgot about that. Zagara also gets little splitter Banelings. So when a Baneling explodes, it splits into like 2 more smaller Banelings as well. Seems balanced. Anyways, he's basically just gonna be sending it towards whatever mark he's got set up on the minimap. And, oh my god. Why is that infested barracks not... Oh my... Okay, that was bad. I don't know why it's floating. I feel like it should definitely not have been doing that. So now the SCVs inside of the main base are gonna be picked off. Zagara, even though she's a queen, she's a brood mother as well. She's not gonna be going across that map very slowly. She's not gonna be moving off creep that slowly. Luckily though, Yorono does still have an expo on the other side of the map. He's gonna be going for an infested starport, but I don't think it's really gonna be able to produce that many units. Although obviously the units actually do spawn out of the cocoons and not out of the structures themselves. So maybe those will actually be able to finish up. Apocalypse is available. Yorono's gonna be chasing Zagara with the Apocalypse. My god. Yeah, just another day at the office. Run, Zagara, run! Are you gonna roll Banelings into that thing? I don't know if you want to do that either. Anyways, bottom right-hand corner. Wait, did he cancel it? Oh, it never finished. Oh, that's a shame. Okay, so now Yorono only has 6 supply worth of stuff. But he does have those big cooldowns, and he does have 2 infested Banshees out at this point as well. Honestly, the Alexander dropped inside of the opponent's main base would be amazing. I think that's what Yorono is looking for here as well. Sending an Overlord in the direction of the opponent's base. Not bad whatsoever. Obviously, the battlecruiser itself could also fly around. So there it is. Yep. I love this idea from Stukov. Just taking care of these couple of units here. And once Stukov obviously loses the Alexander, it will still actually fall on the ground and spawn infested for a long duration. Infested now also attacking the hatchery right there of Ziliad. So he's in a lot of trouble right now. We do see once again that Hunter-Killer cooldown. But at this point, there's really not that much anti-air available right here for the player in blue. The Banshee's over here as well, just absolutely harassing the opponent to death. Is he mind-controlling an Overlord? Not exactly sure what the purpose of that is, but I guess Stukov is just, well, I think it was just killing it actually. It's just the way that the Alexander kills stuff. Alright, so wait, what do we have? That proxy CC in the bottom right-hand corner, it never was cancelled, but I actually think it's the right call, because at this point, Ziliad is soon gonna get the revelation message of his opponent, at least that's what he's expecting after he kills this CC over here, probably not realizing though that there's another CC somewhere out on the map. As far as the structures go, there's really not that much available actually. Oh my god, this could actually still be a win. This could actually still be a win right here for our pink Zerg. Zagara is gonna go to town on what he probably assumes is the last structure of the player in pink. But it turns out there's one more in the bottom right-hand corner, even though it's in production. Actually, wait, what? Why is there two on production? It's showing me as if there's two on production, but I think that may just be a little bit of a bug. Fair enough. Bailing Nest over here also, well, slowly will be picked off. And as far as structures go right now, wait. Oh, there's a couple of gases being made right here for Zagara. Okay. So Zagara has the final structures over here. Zeliat says WTF as he doesn't figure out exactly what is going on. Yorono, I don't know if he was anticipating this like 5 minutes ago, but he already sent that SCV out awfully early. The CC in the bottom right-hand corner finally gets found, actually. Drones over here will be attacking it as well. He gets one of the extractors started up. So at the very least, Stukov has not won the game just yet. It is now a rush for the bottom right-hand corner. Banelings have shown up. Infested command center will be killed. And just like that, it is gonna be Zagara, also known as Zelia, who obtains the victory. Wow, when I first started recording this video, I wasn't entirely sure. Hello everyone and welcome back to a best of 3 series of Professional StarCraft 2. Today it's time for a top level game of Zerg versus Terran, where in game number 1 we find ourselves on Blackburn. Spawning here in the bottom left-hand corner of the map and playing with the red Zerg drones. From Finland we have Cyril. His opponent in the bottom right, Micro Jackson himself with the blue SCVs from South Korea. We are looking at Björn's main base. Alrighty, Cyril versus Björn. This should be a really good one. So actually, over the last couple of days, I've casted a couple of Cyril series here and there, a couple of best of 3s, but I haven't posted them to the YouTube channel, just because Cyril is kind of just smashing everyone. So, in a lot of those games, right, Cyril, like, exploits a weakness early on from the opponent, right? He sees a weakness and then he just kind of wins over the course of the next half hour, right? Sometimes he lets them struggle for another 5 minutes, sometimes 10 minutes, sometimes 15 minutes. But in a lot of the games, it seems like Cyril's just kind of playing with his food. So I'm hoping here that Björn is gonna give him a little bit of a harder time, because Cyril is looking, once again, very strong, especially in ZVT and then also in ZVP. Anyways, yesterday I posted a poll to my YouTube community tab asking you guys who you think is the greatest StarCraft 2 player of all time. And it turns out many of you have voted for Cyril. I think it's fair to say that Cyril is indeed, well, in my personal opinion, he is the greatest StarCraft 2 player of all time, just because he's been looking really strong, but he's definitely amongst the very best. The second closest player, I would probably say, is Maru. Maru, of course, extremely dominant over in Korea, but struggling a little bit more outside of South Korea. He hasn't really won as many events, overseas. There's no denying, though, that Cyril obviously has been extremely strong outside of South Korea, but he hasn't won, for example, a GSL Code S just because of the fact that, well, I mean, in order to win one, that's a tournament that takes place over in South Korea over the course of like 3-4 months. He would have to pack up his entire life just to win one tournament, and I don't know. Personally, I don't think that's really necessary to prove that he is the greatest of all time, although it would be kind of fun to see him participating in a GSL. He did, of course, win the GSL versus the world twice, I want to say. I think he's won it twice. Anyways, The thing is, right, so the Korean events, the Koreans in general don't really have as many StarCraft 2 tournaments as the non-Koreans. So there's region locking going on because once upon a time the Koreans were basically winning everything, and then Blizzard basically made steps to prevent that from happening, giving us non-Koreans also a chance to be good at the game. But these days, honestly, the skill level feels very, very close. Anyways, basically what I'm trying to get at is that, like, it's hard for the non-Koreans, or it's hard for the Koreans to participate in non-Korean events, but not nearly as hard for the non-Koreans to participate in, for example, the GSO Codes. Anyways. A Terran versus Zerg should be very fun. Bjorn actually opening up with a Reaper here. So, interestingly enough, of course, he's the main reason why the Reaper got nerfed once upon a time after he won the World Championships back in, I want to say 2016. He was a little bit too good at making Reapers, and ever since then, I haven't really seen him opening up with Reapers nearly as much. But I can't blame him. Reaper openers are very good. Definitely the go-to, but many of the games I've seen him play, he's been going for like just a straight-up Marine and no scouting whatsoever. Serral, over the last couple of months, has been mixing it up a little bit, and would you look at that? Did he open up Gasless up to this point? Yeah, he opened up Gasless right now with 3 hatcheries, going for a pool first as well. Serral, once again, going for a different build order. Following it up right now with a very, very quick Roach Warren. I also quite like this Overlord position for him. Yep, he's going to be flying that in. Usually about 3:45, 4 minutes or so is when those Overlords start flying. And he's actually going to be able to see the Armory coming up pretty much right as it got started. So very unfortunate beginning right here for Bjorn. Generally speaking, this means that it's going to be a Hellbat-based push. But obviously now it's scouted, and Serral was already going for Roaches. So, I mean, that's basically the worst case scenario for a Hellbat push when you go up against Roaches, because the Hellbats just get absolutely demolished. So great start right here for the finisher so far. Well, we'll see how this goes. Bjorn actually with a lot of resources right now. 300 gas. Maybe he's going to go for a Raven. I really think he needs to go for a Banshee. 400 minerals. Hello. I think we need a CC, my man. Hello. Okay. He's now at like nearly 1,000 resources. Finally starts it up. Little bit of shakiness right here in game number 1 from Bjorn. Definitely stacking up a way more resources than you want here. Going for the double tech lab as a follow-up though. So Banshee right here coming up together with that Stimpack upgrade. Reactor here. It's going to be producing another the factory here making another reactor. There you go. I was almost going to say that the reactor was producing a reactor. That'd be something. High ground here is, of course, in favor of the Terran player. Plus, Hellions lined up can still definitely do quite a bit of damage here as well. But, you know what? This is going way better for the Terran than I was anticipating. Yeah, shoot in the end, though. Still go in favor right here of Serral, who is going to be droning behind. I think he is going to actually back off here as well soon. Because he probably knows that the Banshee is going to be... Oh, maybe not. I think the Banshee was supposed to already be out, so Serral probably looked at that and he's like, oh, okay, if it's not out at this point, there's probably not going to be a Banshee in the first place. Micro Jackson is, of course, going to control his units here reasonably well at the very least. He's going to be able to go for a counterattack, but... Wow, we have a Burrow coming up already. Serral going to go for the Spore Crawler here. How many queens does he have? He's got 5 queens as well, a couple Roaches at the front. He's really not going to take a whole lot of damage. I don't think so anyways. Third CC is done. 1-1 is starting up here as well for Bjorn, it seems, although the +1 armor upgrade hasn't been queued up just yet. He needs to start it right about right now. Okay, there it is. If that would be forgotten, that would kind of suck. Anyways, queens are out. Mobile detection is soon going to be available as well. So if the Banshee were to go into the main base, that's something that Serral can easily hold. And so far, this is looking a lot like those games that I was casting. Where Serral just looks a little bit better than everyone else. Anyways, I don't want to make this cast me fanboying too much over Serral either. But there's no denying that he definitely is one of my favorites going into IEM Katowice, which will be taking place over in... I think in February. So February is when we will crown a new world champion in StarCraft 2. Serral, of course, mostly struggling in ZVC these days. So he's been losing against like the top-level Korean Zerg players like Dark and Rogue every once in a while, and also, for example, against Raynor. Maru and Clem can definitely also beat him, so he's definitely looking vulnerable here and there. But this is very much so what Serral has been doing over the last couple of months, where he's playing build orders that are technically inferior, just to like keep his opponent guessing, right? So going for that pool first makes this actually Yeah, a pretty tricky scenario as well for Bjorn, because Bjorn, of course, is very, very commonly going for that shenanigans with the barracks on the other side of the map. And it's little moves like that make it very difficult for him to justify going for those kinds of build orders. Anyways, I don't know if it's going to be holding Bjorn back. Bjorn definitely not scared of going for those builds, but that's just not ideal. Anyways, so good old Siege Tank Marine Medevac right here. Armory is coming up. It's going to be Roach, Ravager, Infestor, Queen from Serral. I don't really like that unit composition all too much, if I'm being honest with you. It's one of those unit comps that's good in the early game, it's good in the mid game, but it falls off very hard later on. But of course, if you can land a good fungal growth, that can change the tide of battle very quickly. I mean, one fungal on these Terran units can definitely, be the end of the game. So if Bjorn is not expecting it, that's kind of what I mean, right? Technically speaking, this is something that Bjorn can counter, but if he's not expecting it, because it is technically considered an inferior build, yeah, he can just land one fungal growth, Serral that is, and then the game is pretty much over. Anyhow, a couple of roaches over here. Concussive shells are coming up. Hydra Den coming up. Hive is also constructing, so I think it is going to be a lurker transition here from Serral shortly. The drop play that Bjorn is so very well known for so far has been shut down pretty well. Creep spread is looking mighty fine as well, so... fungal. Okay, at least he now sees the Infestor, so that's something. Infestor didn't have energy just yet, and Bjorn has spotted it, so that's important. That way he shouldn't be balling up his units like this. But apparently this man laughs in the face of danger. Great scan there, actually. Grabbing 6 Creep Tumors, if I'm not mistaken. Alright. +2/+2 coming up for the Terran. 2/2 coming up as well for Serral. For the Zerg. Going into the Lurker Den here. Hive is already done. Yeah, he's going to be going from Roaches and Ravagers into Lurkers straight up. Now, that doesn't mean he won't really be having any Lings and Banes. So, without Lings and Banes, it's going to be quite difficult to stop Ghosts. So, I wouldn't mind seeing Bjorn transition towards Ghosts pretty quickly here as well. He's actually making a wall over here. A little bit worried of those Roach run-bys, I suppose. Base in the top left in a little bit of trouble, but Roaches for now will deal with it just fine. Roaches mostly start falling off when Terran hits them with the 3-3. There's that fungal. Corrosive Balls over here are going to shut down that structure that was producing there as well. And now the Lurkers are coming up. I really think we need to see a Ghost transition here. So, generally speaking, Ghosts are counted by Zerglings and Banelings, which is kind of funny. Banelings in particular are the bane of their existence. Haha, so funny. Anyways, this is not an army that can really transition towards Ling Bane very effectively at all. So Adrenal Glands is coming up. Nidus Network is coming up as well for Serral. So maybe he's thinking about... we've seen a lot of Niduses in the main base. I wouldn't be surprised if that's what Serral wants to go for here. Sensor Tower here as well. He's going to be able to spot a couple of those incoming units once it's done. But Lurkers in the right place can make it extremely difficult for Bjorn to break out of his base. Like, say, for example, Lurkers are right over here. That would be bad. It's going to be very hard to break that. A couple of Biles here, too. So far, this game has been all Serral. But that doesn't mean it's going to stay that way. Oh, my God. You're not supposed to be an anti-air unit, Ravager, man. I'm just saying. Anyways. Here's the speedy boy in the main base. Popping the Nidus Worm right next to the Siege Tank, so the Siege Tank can't actually fire. Samwise right there smiling at the... I don't think it's gonna go up, though. No, he's smiling right there at the Worm. Either way, let's continue the harassment over here. Siege Tank will be biled down. Good defense here, though, by Bjorn so far. As this game proceeds, and as the armies get bigger, I do think that this is gonna become better and better for Bjorn, especially with the 3-3 upgrades. But, yeah, okay, so finally we have the Cloaking Field coming up. I was going to say, he really does need to make that transition. If he decides to stick around on Marine Marauder Medevac's, like, Siege Tank, it's not going to go so well. Ghosts are going to be, yeah, I think really good. Ghosts to snipe down basically everything. You can use it on Ravagers, you can use it on Infestors, you can use it right here on the Lurkers. And, again, Serral doesn't really have that much good against the... against that type of army at this point. Oh my god, those spines are dealing so much damage. You do obviously need a decent eco to be able to even afford going for one of those. Oh my god, alright. To go for one of those ghost transitions. Whenever I say the word ghost transition, I always think of that Sabaton song called Ghost Division. Does anyone know what I'm talking about? Ghost Division or Ghost Transition. Sometimes I remind myself of silly things when I'm casting games. I can hear my mind getting distracted while I'm casting games. Once again, a good fungal. Yeah, so the Lost Roaches at this point are being replaced with Hydralisks. +1 melee is coming up as well for Cyril, so I do think he probably wants to transition towards those. Oh, okay. He probably does want to transition towards those Lings and Banes at some point, anticipating that transition. Yeah, he's being very, very generous right now with his Roach gifts, but I think that's by design. So 21 SCVs end up going down. Gold base here in a lot of trouble. I don't think you want to queue up those or like group up those units. My god, this one lurker killed so much stuff. So pretty much a flawless game up to this point here for Cyril though. Look at his bank as well. I've casted so many games over the last couple of months where Björn is just looking so dominant. Not here at least. Not so far anyways. Lurker once again going in the back, using that very nice range here, forcing a scan, putting the ghost in a tricky position. One of the ghosts here will be, well, just walked to its death. A couple of command centers over here are going to be forced to cancel their orbital command move, because this has been so one-sided. Fungal? I mean, it's not game over yet, don't get me wrong. I think there could be a tempo lead for the Terran player. My god, even ghosts are being abducted here. Brenda just moving into the third base of the Terran. There could be like a big tempo push if Cyril gives away his army on accident, because his army's really not that big. It's just that he can remake it by the time that the Terran marches across the map. Top right in base is being acquired, but there is a pesky Zergling blocking the CC from landing. The same can be said right here for the Zergling over here. And even though it's difficult for Cyril at this point to engage, he's just trying to be as obnoxious as possible. At some point, this Terran player will run out of money in the bases that he's got. So even though these trades aren't particularly efficient here for Björn or for Cyril at all, Björn doesn't have much money. Like look at his bank. He's got 100 minerals right now and 173 supply. All right. He needs new base. So securing this one in the top right would be nice. It's just that if Björn puts too many units over here, Cyril's gonna march towards the natural. I do love the siege tank spread here though from Björn. Siege tanks here have been getting a lot of kills. But at this point the Vipers have arrived. EMP right there was missed initially. At the very least the follow-up here is decent. So, well, this is actually a phenomenal trade right here for Björn. Getting very, very, very efficient trades right here for the units that he's lost. Creep spread though this far forward. Infestor also very far forward. We'll be able to get out of the range right there of the scan. Alright, if you look right now at the resources lost, yeah, you can see that it is heavily in favor right here of the Terran player. It's something. It's just that Cyril has been mining a whole lot more money here for the majority of the game as well. Alright, here's that transition. So the ghosts right now are the main threat to that Zerg army. 44 Banelings should definitely make that a little bit more straightforward. That being said, Björn does still have the tools, to be honest. Like, he does still have siege tanks here. He does still have a healthy amount of Marines, Marauders, and Medevacs, too. He definitely can deal with this army. Every time, by the way, we see a scan going down like that, it is something that could have been a mule. Like, it's the same amount of energy to drop a mule for the Terran as it is for him to go for a scan. Base at the 12 o'clock position. Might be in a little bit of trouble, but at the same time, this is that moment where the Banelings are starting to hunt right here for the Ghost. Fungal growth are going to prevent these units from escaping as effectively. Manual detonations right now by Cyril as well. He clears out the Ghost count. Only 2 of them remain at this point. There is a big army up north, and that's something. But I'm still looking at that Cyril bank. He's even got a greater Spire finishing up here. There's nothing that the Terran player can really do against Brute Lords at this point in the game. Third base of the Terran is gone. Hydras are going to be able to take care of a couple of these leftover units as well. I think the reinforcements of the Zerg should be able to get rid of these siege tanks and a couple of leftover units from the Terran. And I think that this is pretty much all she wrote right here. He can obviously stay in the game for a little while longer if he really wants to, but Cyril is still mining. Even his medevac, not going to be able to make it out. Alright. At this point, we're at 195 supply, with like 6,000 resources in the bank for Cyril, versus 134 supply for Björn, with like 500 minerals and gas in the bank. He decides to start up a couple more CCs, so that's something. But I don't think Cyril is going to really allow him to finish those. I think he's once again ready to go for a big attack. Abduction right there in the wrong direction, but the lurkers don't really care. At this point, since the ghost army has disappeared from earlier, the lurkers should be able to reign supreme. Even blinding clouds are coming up on a couple of leftover units. Cyril is going to be sending 50 more Zerglings in this direction very soon. And there it is. GG is called. The game number 1 goes in favor of the Finn. Alrighty. So, where did that even go wrong for Björn? Game number 2, by the way, is on Hardwire. I guess it didn't really start off that great for him, right? So he went for that Hellbed push, but the Hellbed push essentially got countered. Just by Cyril going for a gasless opener with a pull first into like very quick roaches, and then it got scouted pretty much right away. And from there on out, Cyril just kept building on that very small advantage. So that's kind of what I was trying to explain at the beginning of the cast. He got an advantage at like the 4-minute mark, and then it just kind of built on that. Oh my god, are we actually gonna go? Really? Oh, it might be a hatch first. Yeah, it is gonna be a hatch first. Okay. Wow. Björn apparently decides to go for some proxy barracks on Hardwire, despite the fact that his opponent did go for a pull first in the previous game with a bunch of blind Zerglings. I mean, that can backfire extremely hard. But apparently Björn right here playing some mental gymnastics. He's like, well, Cyril probably goes for a pull first maybe 25% of the time. If he did it in game number 1, there's an unlikely chance he's going to be able to do it again. So I'll be planting a couple of barracks on the other side of the map. It's going to be 3 barracks right here in the middle of Hardwire. Overlord is going to spot this pretty soon. Maybe, maybe not. It's actually pretty far back. Alright, no gases here, so Björn is going to be following this up with a ton of Marines. This could backfire actually really badly for Cyril. So he's gonna go hatch gas pool, it seems. That pool is pretty late compared to the last game at the very least. If he loses the Overlord, that's pretty much GG. Overlords are close to those like high grounds, so at the very least they can hide. But at this point, the first Marines are already coming up. And I wouldn't be surprised if we're gonna be seeing a few bunkers as well in that choke point of the Zerg. Maybe even a little bit closer to the hatch. Alright, Cyril's gonna see it right now. Panic mode. Are we gonna panic? No, we're not gonna panic. The problem is he doesn't know if it's 2 or 3 barracks. So I really do like this move right here from Björn. Now, Cyril has to make a bit of a gamble. Is it a double Rex proxy or is it a triple Rex proxy? You need to respond differently to the both of them. So he's pulling drones right now, hoping that it's one of the 2 options, trying to see if he can surround a few of those Marines with his workers. So far, that's kind of working out, I guess. SCV over here will be killed, so at least that's something. Spinecrawler is coming up, but at this point, Björn is going to be able to pump out a lot of units. He's once again forced to pull the drones at this point because if that bunker finishes, he's going to be in a lot of trouble. Instead, though, he decides to bypass that entirely and go for the Marines themselves. But I think that this is a coin flip that did go in favor right here of Björn ever so slightly. I mean, he hasn't killed anything critical just yet. It's just that I still see a lot of Marines out. And there's no Zergling speed or anything like that coming up, right? So Cyril did pull out of gas. Spinecrawler is done. So maybe that one can kind of zone, but if it repositions, it's, yeah, gonna be gunned at by those Marines. Assuming Björn controls this well, this should be an advantage for him. Cyril probably will go for one big push here, pulling the drones once again, uprooting the Spinecrawler too, sending as many units as possible. But if he loses the hatchery here, if he loses the natural expo, that is pretty much game over. A little bit of a supply block right now here for Cyril too. Yeah, he didn't want to pull the drones there, but he couldn't know. GG is cold. There it is. Alright, well that's one way of winning. Alrighty, so that brings us to our final game of the day, and it is gonna be on 2,000 atmospheres. Little bit of a cheap win right there for Björn, but obviously it counts, right? If that wouldn't have worked, it would be whatever. 2-0 against Cyril. It is what it is, right? That game number 1 was kind of tricky. It's gonna be hard to win against him in a longer game, but maybe, right? If you can proxy Rex rush him, maybe you can shake up Cyril just a little bit, and then all of a sudden playing a more regular game once again is gonna be a little bit more useful. So, our final game for today is gonna be 2,000 atmospheres. I actually kind of want to see if Cyril goes for a pool first again here, or if he just... No, he will still go for the hatchery.
Illume be with you.
Not really too shaken up there. Although the first Overlord is gonna go in a bit of a different pattern than what we normally see. Second Overlord also making very sure that there's no tricky barracks shenanigans, at least close to the Zerg's main base. Obviously, Björn could be planting the barracks right over here. He could be planting the barracks right... There's a load of locations where he could position them. But it's not gonna happen. I do like this actually from Björn, going for a pretty laid back barracks. If this would be a quick Overlord scout, maybe the Overlord would overextend a little bit and then the Marine can actually kill it. Either way, it doesn't really matter all too much. It is probably gonna float on over in that choke point though a little while later as well, just to make sure that the wall off is completed. Ooh, we're gonna go straight into a reactor, okay. This is what I mean sometimes, man. Look at what Björn is doing here, right? So in game number 1, Cyril went for blind Zerglings with a pool first. Björn scouted in that game with an SCV as well as with a Reaper. Game number 2, he knows that his opponent went for that build in game number 1, so he decides to proxy barracks on the other side of the map. Very risky. Now Björn decides to even step it up another notch, and he goes for a reactor first, no wall off here initially, and then, you know, a command center on the low ground. Björn is like, you know what, I need to cut a couple corners. If I cut a couple corners, maybe things are going to be a little bit easier for me. Second barracks is coming up as well. I've seen this build a couple times before from Björn. You'll be able to pump out so many of those Marines early on. Is it going to be the triple Rex? Oh, yeah, it is going to be the triple Rex. Okay, that's cool. So I actually wanted to talk about this build. This is a relatively new development in the Terran versus Zerg matchup over the course of like the last, I would say, 2 months or so. So Cure has been doing this build quite a bit, and obviously Cure won the GSO Code S. I've seen Maru do it, I've seen Björn do it, I've seen a couple of the top-level Terran players do it. Now, what's kind of funny is I think it was at Stay at Home Story Cup, Raynor mentioned that he thinks that this build is awful. He thinks that this build is very bad. And then we had Solar on the call. I think it was Solar. And Solar was like, no, the build is very, very good. So apparently the Zerg players are not entirely decided on whether or not this build order is actually good. The problem is, right, theoretically speaking, this is usually a build that's played against Protals. So usually you follow this up with a Factory and then eventually a Starport as well. So it's like 2 Tech Labs, you go for the Stimpak, Combat Shield over there, you finish all those upgrades up all together. Technically speaking, Zerg players shouldn't have a very hard time against it, but it seems that like the 2 standard builds that Zerg players play most of the time with either the double upgrades first, or for example the quick lair with the bailing speed first, those build orders have a pretty hard time against this sort of strategy, and obviously it's gonna be quite tricky for the Zerg to actually scout this sort of thing out. Anyways, it's kind of cool. Curious to see how Cyril decides to go up against this. He once again does have an Overlord right here in the back. Ay. That rally point was basically flawless. I think he is going to be able to see everything. I mean, at this point, he does see 3 Marines. I think he's already seen a couple more Marines out on the minimap too. Okay, he doesn't actually see too much, but he sees a dozen Marines. Okay, less than a dozen Marines. A half dozen Marines. Out on the map, and he's seen a bunch in the main base. I think he'll probably put 1 and 1 together and realize exactly what's going on. This is extremely risky from Björn, by the way. There's no Stimpak yet. There's no Combat Shield. There's no Medevac. This could just die to like 20 Zerglings. And then at that point, Björn is going to be in a world of disaster. Luckily for him, though, Cyril doesn't really make that group of roaming Zerglings, but this is a little bit too ballsy for my liking. Cyril doing the Zerg thing, though, but... maybe he can pick up a couple of the reinforcing Marines. Yeah. Nicely done right here. Although, good work as well by Björn. I like what Björn is doing, though. Björn's sitting at the roulette table right now. Except it's a game of StarCraft. He's like, yeah, let me put all my money on red. He's not gonna scout red. I promise you, he's not doing it. It's like, alright, Bjorn. If you say so, my man. Anyways, Stimpack Combat Shield done at this point. Still no med effects, by the way. This is a different variant of that build entirely. I think the factory was actually very late, wasn't it? Anyways, +1 infantry weapons is coming up. Cyril did make a huge amount of Zerglings. Honestly, Zerglings aren't really going to do very well against his army at all. Yeah, I don't think Bjorn even wants to fight. I don't think Bjorn is going to engage. Banelings are coming around the back as well. These are slow Banes. Bjorn, of course, with Stimpack and good micro, should be able to pick those off. Every single time he stims, though, this is going to be very painful. Nice targeting right here by the Terran player initially, but there wasn't enough. And this is what I mean. How is this a good build order? I don't understand it either, man. So, okay, let me put this... let me put it straight. 3rd CC normally starts at the absolute latest at like 420 for Terran. Maybe 430 if they did a poor execution. Right now, we're 6 minutes into the game. Pretty much. And the 3rd CC has just started up. The only thing that Bjorn really has going for him at this point is that his build is kind of strange. And Cyril is going to have to respond to it on the fly. So I can imagine Cyril doesn't have as much practice against this sort of scenario, or in this sort of scenario, you know, than the Terran player, but it really feels like against high-level Zerg players, you just kind of give them an advantage, right? Because you're not going to win with you're not going to win, right? With the Stimpack Marine push with 3 racks. I don't think so. Unless the Zerg is playing exceptionally greedy. 1-1 is starting up. I'm expecting Baneling speed pretty quick here as well for Cyril with his next little bit of gas. Cyril not actually had that many workers either, though, but he's already got the 4th hatch coming up. Probably going to be able to transition pretty easily. Queens right now start firing at the Medevac too. Good targeting, though, this time around here by Bjorn, keeping those units alive. Okay, transfuse energy is now also being used. As long as the Medevacs live, this army is actually very, very potent. Okay, I like this a lot better from Bjorn. Nicely done. I say that, and the Medevac full of units dies, as well as the couple of units on the ground. So, yeah. All around me and face. It's just one Medevac going back home. It's gonna have to relay the story of what happened. Anyways, 3rd CC finally morphing. Oh man, I really, really, really am not a fan of this build. I just don't see, like, we see this build regularly right now. I just never really see it do particularly well, and I can only imagine once this build is like practiced against a little bit more. Sarah already seems very comfortable. It's just gonna get worse, right? Anyways, all the top-level Terran players are playing it, so you know, I might disagree, but there's probably a good reason why they're playing it, right? Anyways, Baneling speed is very late, so maybe that's something that Bjorn can abuse, but he's pumping out 8 Marines at once right now, which is actually quite formidable, right? That is a lot of Marines at this stage in the game. Main base is starting to run dangerously low on resources, though. Armory and 2nd NG Bay is coming up as well. There is, of course, this beautiful siege tank spot over here. I actually don't really like the 4th base position here for Cyril. I think the one on the... Oh, okay, well... Cyril doesn't either. The one on the left made a little bit more sense. Especially with the way the creep spread is going right now. Because, you know, fighting this off creep, especially without Baneling speed, pretty much impossible. Defending this base up here is going to be much easier. Anyhow, Liberators is a follow-up. Okay. +2/+2 is going to start up soon for Bjorn. A couple of Banelings are going to just try and walk into... Okay, that's way too ambitious. That should never work. But maybe Bjorn wasn't paying attention there. Baneling speed actually done right there, so a bit of a disconnect from the Cyril player, or from the Cyril player, from the Zerg player. A couple of Zerglings, though, are just dealing some damage together with the siege tank over here on the high ground. Bio drop on the left side of the map. Okay, maybe... Okay, if Bjorn can pick up the pace, that would be fantastic. If he can actually pick up the pace, get a couple kills here, get that tempo lead that he's so very well known for and so comfortable with, that would be amazing. So far, though, it looks like Cyril is holding on, but only by a thread. To be fair, though, that's most of what he needs. No damage being done this time around with that Baneling roll-by. Base on the left is still alive. 4th base over here also alive. That siege tank is gone from this little choke. So at the very least, these bio units aren't getting as much damage done as they would. Here's the reinforcements, though. A couple of Liberators also have shown up. Ooh, we never started up +2 armor. He really needs +2 armor. Mistakes like that should not be happening. No 4th CC, by the way. So there's basically, yeah, only 3 command centers out, and he's gonna go for a ton of units out of those CCs. Serral's sitting, because of that, only at 70 workers here, which I quite like. That being said, this choke point, yeah, I think it's time to just give up this base. I wouldn't mind it at all if Serral just decides to relocate and go for the third, or like the base on the left side of the map. I think it makes sense. Hive is coming up. Okay, I think he might be evacuating on out of there. Yep. I think this is a good idea. So +2/+2, just about to finish here for the Zerg. Terran still has not started up +2 armor. Might be on purpose, but I think it isn't. Pretty sure he just forgot. Since this is a 3-base play right here from Björn. Oh my god. Oh god, I think the Zerglings are trying to set themselves up for a big surround. Not any vision at the watchtower. I would love to see one of those Zerglings running over there. Anyways, since there is no 4th CC, Serral doesn't really need 90 drones or anything along those lines either. So I think Serral's playing this very well. He's actually setting a huge trap up. He could go for a big surround if he really wants to anyway. Instead, he decides to go for a counterattack towards the top left-hand corner. I thought he was going to collapse on top of his army. Beautiful movement here once again by Bjondo, but this is an army not supported by Medivacs. So eventually, it's going to go down. 2-2 not done yet for the Terran player. Finally, he realized it, by the way, starting up the +2 armor. A couple of Vipers are happening. Okay. So Vipers are going to be able to abduct the Liberators and abduct the Siege Tanks or use Blinding Cloud on them. And at that point, it's mostly just going to be Marines remaining. So Vipers here make a ton of sense. There's already Hydras out, so Hydraling Bane Viper. Strong unit comp. Adrenal Glands is coming up. A couple of Banelings are morphing in to go for that mineral line as well. And honestly, right now this is becoming rather desperate right here for Terran. Main base is run out. Obviously, he can reposition the main and the natural to other locations if he wants to. But there's already Zerglings scouting these locations. Well, the one that was scouting that just got picked off.
Still recharging.
Serral's at Hive Tech. Bjorn is still in the mid game. I'm really not liking this all too much. Yes, he's got a large army. But this is not an army... Like, I would love to see a Lurker Den going on. This is not really an army that can deal with Lurkers very effectively, although I think Serral probably wants to clean up these big heavy hitters first. Once those Liberators are gone, they're not going to be very easily replaced at all. Big Zergling counterattack, actually, while that Terran army is parking on the creep. 4cc gets killed, so that's no cancel. 400 minerals down the drain. Siege tank over there dealing more friendly fire. 6 o'clock base being reacquired, as well as the one south of that. Okay, here we go. Parasitic bomb on the medevac. Good split right there by Bjorn. Zerglings, once again, running across. They could go for a surround. They could go for a big fight over here. Now they're just going to try and pick up some reinforcements, I suppose. Fair enough. At some point, Serral is going to pull the trigger and fight this army. He's trying to bait it as deep onto the creep as possible. Is this the moment he was waiting for? Queens are available as well, by the way. There's 12 of those in total. Not bad whatsoever. Okay, Liberator gets abducted. Parasitic bomb right there on the medevac. Not a good split this time around. Bjorn takes a lot of damage. Alright, Serral actually once again decides to give up the base, and he's also gonna, I guess, give up the base in the top section of the map. He knows very well that the situation is desperate at this point for Bjorn. Bjorn is on 3 bases. He knows that these bases are gonna run out very soon. He knows the right side hasn't been taken yet either, because he's kept checking over there. 12 o'clock also not acquired. At this point, he knows that Terran is on his last legs, and he needs to fight him. So rather than fighting off creep, Serral's just repositioning the drones that he's got, and he's telling him, come get me. If you want to fight, you're gonna do it on my terrain. Either that or I will keep running around the map, dealing damage wherever I can. Like, for example, another 15 SCVs end up going down here. I'm not gonna allow you to fight where you want to fight. I think that's where probably most of the Zerg players get impatient, right? They want to fight this sort of army. They want to get it out of that position. At this point, Serral has a huge bank, so he decides it's time to engage. Blinding Clouds are disabling the siege tanks. Liberators are being abducted here by the Vipers as well. Vipers absolute MVPs in that battle. All of the Terran units get destroyed. And Serral, my god. He's looking incredibly strong. Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to a best of 5 series of professional StarCraft 2. Today it's time for a Zerg versus Protoss between 2 players at the tippity top of the European ladder. So spawning here in the top left-hand corner of Lightshade, that's map number 1 in this best of 5 series. We have none other than Serral, by many considered to be the greatest StarCraft 2 player of all time, and for very good reason. Turns out he's very good at the game, and his opponent in the opposite corner with the red Protoss Pros from Denmark, he goes by the name of MaxPax. Now, MaxPax, at the very least, compared to Serral, very much so still a newcomer to the StarCraft 2 scene, at the very least when it comes to playing at the pro level. Still a very young guy. I've been hyping him a lot over the last couple of months. He's extremely good, but is he good enough to take on someone of the caliber of Serral? Because here's the thing. MaxPax, in general, not so much, I guess, over the last half year or so, but in general, he's always played a very cheesy sort of style. About a half year ago, it seems, in my mind, at the very least, maybe it's been longer, he kind of did a 180 and he started playing a lot more macro games, and he's gotten extremely good at those. The reason why I bring it up is because Serral doesn't really die to, like, stupid stuff, right? He's very good at just, like, scouting and then dealing with pretty much everything you throw at him. So, for example, like a Dark Templar all-in or like an Adept cheese or anything along those lines, it's really not gonna work against the finisher. It does make Serral a little bit predictable, though, because most of the time he just plays, you know, defensively, and then eventually he will overwhelm you with stuff. He will obviously take certain vulnerabilities and try to exploit those, but in general, he plays a pretty macro-focused style of Zerg versus Protoss, pretty much as macro-focused as it comes. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if the early games in this particular series are going to be, yeah, probably something you and me have seen 1,000 times before, especially currently in Zerg vs. Protoss. I've been a little vocal about it, right? I'm not entirely convinced that this is the most fun way of playing ZVP, just because it's pretty much always Stargate into triple hatch, and then eventually a third hatches, or a third CC, or what's it called? A Nexus. There you go. For the Protoss player as well, where they just macro up, and then by like the 8-minute mark, we finally have some action. Anyways, can't really fault anyone for that. They're just playing the style that is best for them. Although, would you look at that? Max Spec's actually starting up the Warp Gate upgrade right as the Cybercore finishes up. Usually that's an indication you want to go Twilight Council or Robo. So Max playing a little bit of a mind game because, yep, it's still going to be a Stargate here regardless. Normally if you would go for a Twilight Council or a Robotics Facility, you start up the Twilight or the Robo right away together with the Warp Gate Research. In this particular case, he started up the Warp Gate Research as well as the Adept, which was definitely scouted here by Serral, because he can see the little things right there spinning around, so he knows an upgrade was started and a unit was started as well in the gateway, which probably puts this Zerg player, at the very least for now, the Protoss right here, on a... Ooh, what's this? Cheeky little Zergling. He's gonna double check. On a Twilight Opener, or for example, a... What? Is Serral really gonna do this? I haven't obviously seen this series yet. I've seen some players pull this off. So Serral immediately pulled the boys. Only a couple of boys. He's only got 23 drones in total. He's pulled about 7 workers right now to the front. Oh my god. Okay, so Max Specs is gonna complete the wall, but Max Specs did not send the Adept out for scouting, did he? So that now allows these workers to mineral walk through all of the Adepts. This is something you can only do with workers in StarCraft 2. You can see Mexpex right there trying to do the same thing to try and defend at home. He is completing what seems to be the craziest wall-off I've seen in a while. Void Ray is popping out at this point as well. What in the world? Out of all players to go for a build like this, I did not expect Serral to be the one, but he's actually, I think, pulling it off. There's only one gateway here. Yeah, there's only one gateway here, so you're not really going to get a whole lot of production either. Warp Gates didn't even finish, or maybe he ended up canceling it. I'm not 100% sure. Zerglings, though, are slowly biting through these structures. It is obviously absolutely critical here that Zerg does win the game at this point, because he cut a ton of workers to try and pull this off, but I think he actually managed it. Okay. Serral, out of all people, going for a very cheesy game number 1. And you know what? I believe I said it just now, right? He's always very predictable. This is about the opposite of being predictable, right? This is a wild start. So I think the, yeah, I mean, there's just going to be more Zerglings right now, right? I mean, he's droning behind it, so Mexpex can definitely try and play a macro game, you know, as a follow-up, but yeah, it's going to be like 5 probes versus 30-something. Spoiler alert, it's not going to go well. Unless, you know, these 2 oracles all of a sudden magically kill an entire mineral line worth both, like, each. So it's... I'm pretty sure, I'm gonna double check after this game ends, but I'm pretty sure what Serral exploited just now is an Adept not going across the map right after it popped out. Anyways, 24 probes end up being killed. At this point, we have 37 workers on the other side of the map right now for Serral. He's going for some Spore Crawlers. He's adding on... Yeah, another Queen. He's already got quite a few of those as well. There's really no way, Max. He scouts it right now, too, and he sees the saturation over to the 3rd base. He sees that more workers are popping as well. I mean, you can try. But the issue is, right, the Cybernetics core is gone as well. He's gonna have to start up a Cybercore and then eventually the Warp Gate upgrade. And then by the time that finishes, he can finally start thinking about actually going for some damage. I mean, obviously, these oracles can fly around, and the Void Ray can maybe, I don't know, get a friend. But in general, I don't really see how this... I mean, you can try. I mean, he's going to try. Okay, I appreciate you. This is something. Most players would have already GG'd out, but I guess MaxPax is like, you know what? It is a tournament match. This is from ASSR... No, actually, it's not from ASSRG. It's from DreamHack 4. May as well give it a try and see how it goes. But to be fair, going up against Serral must be pretty scary in the first place anyway, and then when you're playing it, you know, significantly from behind, it's gonna be hard. Alright, so what can you do right now as a Protoss player? Well, usually, if Warp Gate would have been done, I think what you can do is go for like an all-out assault, right? Maybe just cut probes entirely and just go off of like, I don't know, 6 gateways or something, 20 probes or so, and just try to maximize the amount of damage you can do. That's like, you know, just warp in a lot of units and hope you find your opponent droning, right? Something along those lines. Anyways, Warp Gate, 7 minutes into the game, still not started. Well, I guess, you know, not started for the second time. Instead, Max decides to go for a third Nexus. Already, though. Brenda, Karen, Margaret. There's Lily right there coming in the back. Susan anywhere? I don't know if Susan's around. Anyways, they're already marching across. Lings and Roaches ready to go as well. Cyril did hit a bit of a supply block, but I'm sure he's going to add on a lot of Ravagers here, yep, once the next Overlord pops, and then 20 more Zerglings as well on the back of this. Third Nexus isn't going to happen. I don't think Max has actually seen this army yet until right now. The Queens are at the front, though, which is a bit of an issue. Shield Battery there does get cancelled. And unless these Void Rays can, yeah, somehow, some way get rid of the Queens. Oh my god, a miss rally! No, Max! Okay, he did miss rally right there and loses one of the... He loses one of the Oracles right there for pretty much free. Zerglings right now, once again, well, apparently they could have streamed in, but there's already plenty of Lings in the main base. Apparently Cyril's satisfied with the amount he's got in over there. He's just gonna try and preserve this a little bit easier at the front instead. Queens in the back, Corrosive Bowels, all of those shield batteries. I mean, there's the battery overcharge, but barely in range of the fight. And honestly, right now, oh my god, he's even biling his own Ravagers. Yeah, honestly, right now, there's really no way for Max to get much done. Okay, so we're back at the 2.5 minute mark. This is right around the time that the first Adept pops. I'm pretty sure, yes, he cancels that Shade to try and, I guess, I don't know, defend at home or maybe save up a second Adept. At the very least, he's going to be able to deny that Zergling a little bit easier, but that's the problem right here for Max Max. Yeah, the margin for error at the pro level, it's extremely small. So Max went across the map and he scouted that it was a hatchery first. As a matter of fact, he blocked the natural expansion from going up, so he knew the timing of Zergling speed. And Zergling speed finishes up like a minute, maybe a minute and a half or so after the very first Adept pops at like 2.5, 240, right? The problem is that MaxSpecs did not do a follow-up scout. I think he was planning on going for a follow-up scout when the second Adept was out, although he kept those at home for a little while as well. Maybe he was planning on going for some sort of Adept follow-up, or maybe he just wanted to grab a really quick third Nexus. Not 100% sure as to why he didn't do a follow-up scout. I guess 9 times out of 10 against someone of the caliber of Cyril, they'll just be doing the same thing anyway, right? They'll just go for a cheeky little worker, and then another worker, and then another worker, and maybe a queen, and then another drone, right? They'll minimize the amount of units they will actually have to produce, but apparently the 1 time out of 10, Cyril does decide to mix it up. Saw an opportunity with the first Overlord scout. He's like, you know what? If you're staying at home, I'll just make some other units and see how you hold it. Turns out, well, you don't. Anyways, props right there for, or to Max Specs rather, for sticking in that game for a little while longer. One of the things that can be a little bit jarring when you first start watching professional StarCraft 2, at the very least, I found this quite jarring myself, is how quickly some of the pro players leave games, right? I was like, wait, you still have like 3 bases fully mined out. I mean, what do you... You know, you still have a chance, right? You still got a bunch of workers. I mean, what if your opponent disconnects or makes a mistake, right? Usually those aren't particularly good odds, especially, you know, at the highest level when the game is very well figured out. If you're already, if you're already like 50% behind, there's a very, very, very small chance that you actually win. I mean, yeah, there's something to be said as well for taking the 1% chance, just because there's always a chance that you can win, but yeah, especially in a best of 5 series like this, when you already have to play for maybe like another hour or so, it can be quite taxing, not just physically, but also mentally if you decide to stick in the game for a long time. Because basically for the majority of that, I'm pretty sure Max Specs was thinking, oh my god, I suck. This is bad. I shouldn't have done that. Oh my god, why did that happen? Ugh. You gotta kind of like put yourself, you know, beyond that, right? You gotta just think of it as like, okay, well, 9 times out of 10 at this point, or maybe 99 out of 100 times I'm gonna lose. But I'll just try and put all of my eggs in one basket just on the off chance I can still make it happen, right? Like, that's a better mindset to have, but at least personally, I know very well that it's easy to kind of get stuck in your own head in those kind of situations. Either way, once again, on Orcside Ellie, game number 2, we've got ourselves a Stargate opener. Would you look at that? Adept? Going? Really? Really? Alright. Cyril's looking at this right now as well. He's like, you know what? Could have done it again. Maybe it's not so good on Oxide though, because of the ramp and stuff. That shouldn't make much of a difference. Anyways, Cyril not pulling any of the boys just yet. Also not making any additional Zerglings here. You know what? Maybe Cyril did already decide to go for that push a little bit before the very first Adept Scout. I'm not 100% sure. It's one of those uncommon strategies. Either way, Overlord right now scouting its demise. Poor Ovi. It also did scout that it was going to be an Oracle as a follow-up. Overlord is going to escort a little worker together with the Adept from earlier. Really would love to see this one going across the map. To be fair though, even though MaxPax didn't scout that until like the last possible moment, he still almost had that health, right? So maybe that's the reason why in this game he's like, you know what? Yeah, really not too concerned. My SimCity may not have been perfect, but my god, this Zergling Scout is... That's kind of beautiful, isn't it? Cyril's like, okay, Stargate's right over there. Let me draw a diagonal line, the trajectory that Oracle was going to take when it comes out. It's probably rally towards either my natural or my third base. I need to patrol a Zergling right here. Still loses 2 workers. That Zergling was beautiful. The defense at home, not so much. Alright. So, +1 flyer attacks coming up right here from MaxiPax. That's something. Always nice. Love the usage right there, by the way, of Revelation. So this is one of the changes they made in the most recent Blizzard balance patch for the game. So this is like, I don't know, more than a year ago at this point. 20th of August, as a matter of fact. There you go. It's been a long time since we've last had a balance update, man. Blizzard, please. They, actually may have been a patch before that. Anyways, they basically made it so that Revelation is quite a bit cheaper to cast, which is that detection spell that the Oracle has, but it lasts half as long. So basically the cost of it is half as, well, it costs half as much, and then, yeah, it lasts half as long as well. Which is quite sweet if you want to clear out some of that creep. A couple of Zerglings going across. Not really that many defensive units over here, and actually, that's sloppy. Adept sleeping on the job. You were supposed to be right there. Little bits and pieces. Getting an Adept as well as a shield battery. Not a terrible situation to be in. Now, by the way, this screams Skytles in every way. So MaxPax basically going for, yep, there's the 3rd Stargate as well as a Fleet Beacon right now coming up. MaxPax just gonna sit back and play that very turtley style of Protoss. This is something that many Zerg players out there do not enjoy playing against very much because it's extremely difficult to win against. But, I mean, if anyone feels comfortable against this sort of thing, it's definitely Cyril. So let's have a look at what Cyril decides to do, right? So he knows at this point that it's, another 2 Adepts actually get popped over here. Sloppy, man. That's, yeah, you don't want to lose those units for free anyways. Let's see what Cyril does. So he's got the Queen split up. All the Queens in the main base would probably be the end of the 4th. All the Queens at the 4th would probably be the end of at least a couple of drones in the main. So clever splitting here. Notice how Cyril is skipping any kind of Hydra tech. This seems to be very common these days. So Hydralisks. Seems like the pro players have decided that Hydras kind of suck. Except for Dark. Dark still seems to be going for Hydras all the time. Anyways. Cyril just basically making Queens here and adding on a Spire. So I think he's using the Queens as like a stepping stone to eventually get Corruptors out. So we're going +1 melee. Infestation Pit is already done. No Hive just yet. So a lot of Zerg players would be very keen to go for some sort of Queen March at this stage in the game. Oh, he's going go. Oh, he's gonna go mute us. Okay, he's making 14 mute us. Man, Cyril. Huh. Alright. Someone put something in Cyril's cereal this morning. I mean, this series was played a little bit ago. Anyways, that is not something we normally see. So he's gonna go 15 mutas here in total. And I guess he's just gonna harass this. Now, this is wonderful, by the way. Oh, Max Specs right there. Gets a glimpse of the flippy flappies, but I don't know if he actually saw it. So, the problem is, right? Without the speed upgrade... Yeah, he starts up the speed upgrade here. It's about halfway done. Without the speed upgrade, these Void Rays are gonna have a very hard time getting anything done. So the idea is for the mutas just to kill as many probes as possible, right? They're not really here to kill units, they're just here to kill probes. It is forcing out a Phoenix transition, which could be good, I guess. Because Phoenix is also kind of our dead weight in the maxed out Protoss army. I mean, they're not terrible, but you don't really want to keep them around for too long. One other thing that it is doing right here for Sero is buying a lot of time, right? So he's already sitting at 92 workers. There's the Disruptor coming up, which is the main reason why we don't really see that much Hydra play anymore. Love this, by the way. Beautiful interception here with the Void Race. Max Specs not falling for the F2A move syndrome. Just, oh my god. Man, I don't like mutas, man. It's just cannon fodder here, right? Like, it looks so painful. So that was 15 mutas for, like, what? 12 probes? And I guess forcing out a Phoenix switch and buying time. Was that worth it? I mean, as far as resources lost goes, no. Maybe the time is worth it, though. Maybe that's the reason. Maybe that's, like, the main purpose. Because it's forcing that Protoss army to stay at home. But I'm pretty sure Max probably would have stayed at home anyway, because he's now got 4 bases up. Either way, Ultralisk Cavern, Greater Spire, Adrenal Glands, +1/+1 right here for... Well, I guess the Queens is coming up. It's only a few Phoenixes, by the way. Max Spec's not going too overboard with that. Which I quite like. How many drones are you gonna do? 110 drones? So, this is gonna be a Spore Crawler forest, by the way. Like, there's gonna be Spore Crawler forest everywhere. There's a couple of roaches out, by the way, right now. They're mostly just, once again, a stepping stone towards better units later on. So ultimately here for Max Specs, he probably just wants to max out on a whole lot of these big boys. He has, I think, scouted the... Where's the Ultralisk Cavern? Okay, no, he hasn't. But he knows that Ultras are very popular at this point in the meta. So basically the idea, right? So in case you haven't watched the late game EVP in a little while, it turns out just carriers and Void Rays get demolished by Queens, Hydras, and Corruptors, right? You don't even need all 3 of them. You can just kind of choose one of them and you'll be able to destroy that sort of army relatively easily. What makes the Skytle's army really strong is the addition of the Disruptor or the High Templar or both. Now, it's a little bit awkward, but it turns out that if you add in a couple of Ultralisks, so you only add like 5 or so at most, you can force all of the High Templar and Disruptors to stay in the back, and then your, you know, Hydra army or Corruptor army or Queen army or whatever can deal with the rest of the Protoss Skytles units, which is one of the reasons why Zergs have started playing Ultralisks. I mean, the other reason is that they're really good at run-bys and stuff, especially when they're well upgraded. Either way, because of that, Protoss has to address it. Protoss can't really just not make any Immortals. I think having at least a couple, so he's only got 1. I think having like 3 or so is a much better idea. Maybe he'll add on a couple more here in a minute. I mean, he's still pretty Void Ray heavy, so that's okay. But I guess at some point, once you run out of Void Rays, yeah, not having a proper counter to the Ultras can really be a bit of a problem. So there's the Storm upgrade coming up as well. Mama Ship is just about to pop out of the main Nexus. Anyways. Is this the Abduction Squad? I think it is. Yoink. So what's the Zerg army gonna be like? Corruptor, Viper, together with Overseers in one control group. The advantage of having all of these units together is that it looks very, very messy, right? So, High Templar have a spell called Feedback that allows them to, for example, feedback, which you could see just now, the Vipers. Turns out if you put all of the Overseers on the same control group as well, there's always a chance that they accidentally target one of the Overseers rather than one of the Vipers. Plus, obviously, Overseers are detectors, which is very helpful. Secondly, there's the Queens and then all of the Spore Crawlers. So as much as I'm not a fan of this playstyle, it is very good. Basically what Cyril's doing right now is he's making it impossible for these carriers to properly move across the map. Because everywhere they go, they're going to be met with spores. And obviously carriers, they have interceptor ships. And those interceptors get picked off pretty easily with the spore crawlers, right? So yeah, there's a bunch of spores everywhere. Obviously spores are also detectors. So cheeky little Dark Templar that are trying to go around the back also would not work out so well. Alright. So I've seen this exact game dozens of times. And pretty much every single time, it's a Protoss win. I have played this exact game hundreds of times. And every single time. I mean, that's because I'm not very good at late game Zerg versus Protoss. But every single time, it's a Protoss win. Love playing this, by the way, from the Protoss' perspective. It's really nice. Alright, that's a huge abduction. Minus 400 right there. Mama ship goes down. So the problem is, right? When I play this sort of style, and I'm playing this from the Zerg's perspective, is that you need a lot of control groups in order to pull this up properly, or pull this off properly. It's very difficult to, like, micro correctly. Yeah, so this is where it gets really hard. So another spellcaster is going to be added into the mix. Cyril is going to go for a couple of infestors, which obviously make this army better. Because, you know, fungal growth, really, really good. Neural parasite, really, really good. What's it called? Microbial shroud even, also really, really good. It's just extremely difficult to micro because you need like 6 hotkey groups in order to like... I don't know. I don't know how they hotkey it, man. It's very tricky. So the brutes are all on a hotkey, I think, together with the queens. These are all on one hotkey group as well. He's probably got hotkeys here as well on the spore crawlers, although he doesn't really necessarily need it. Then the lings and the banes are over here on the hotkey too. Either that or he's just not hotkeying those at all because they're mostly just like suiciding in. And I guess the infestors are going to be on a separate hotkey group too. Likewise, by the way, for Protoss, very tricky unit composition to control properly. There's a lot of people that are like, F2 A move, or army hotkey attack move. So, I know I've mentioned this before, nice abduction over here, but if you want to do this army composition well, you really, really, really have to try and split it up. Mama ship has to go on a separate hotkey. High Templar have to go on a separate hotkey. Disruptors have to go on a separate hotkey. These units can kind of all be on one. Oracles will have to be on a separate hotkey. Tempest may also have to be on a separate one too. Or, you know, hotkeyed multiple times. You can obviously also like double click or control click any of the units that are on the screen to like maneuver them around. But what I'm trying to get at is that this is a very technical unit composition. And yeah, in general... And there's maybe some Zerg bias, so take that for what it's worth. I mostly play Zerg myself. The margin for error for Zerg is a little bit small. So one little mess up for Zerg can be a disaster. Same for Protoss, obviously. But to a lesser extent. I mean, I've played this composition a gajillion times myself as well as Protoss, and it feels fantastic. You feel invincible. Maybe not so much against Cyril, though. Like, MaxPax is looking around right now. He's looking for opportunities. But everywhere he goes, there's just Spore Crawler after Spore Crawler after Spore Crawler, right? How many spores are there? 53 Spore Crawlers. Yeah, that explains the 110 workers earlier. I would love to see an Oracle added into the mix. I do not know why we don't have an Oracle. So Tempests, they have a lot of ranged. They can shoot much further than they can actually see, and they're very good when it comes to dealing with the spores. However, you need to have some sort of vision, right? So obviously you can provide vision with the rest of your army, but a revelation right here on this army, and then, you know, the Tempest in from a distance. Not bad. Okay. High Templar right there, feedbacking the queens. I kind of like it. Yeah, I love this. So the Tempest here added into the mix is really, really wonderful. Good fungal right there as well by Cyril. Brute Lord's moving in for the kill. Gonna be able to kill. Yep. Oh, a couple more units actually. Miscontrol right there by MaxPax. Allows a couple of those units to be picked off for free. Okay, there's Prismatic Alignment activated on the Void Race, which is forcing those Corruptors that take bonus damage from that to back off. Yeah, the Spore Crawlers really are the key here, aren't they? Like, it makes it so hard for Protoss to get any sort of engagement in. Okay, Queens transfusing each other. So basically, right, the main army right here for Serral are all 3 spellcasters. So Zerg has 3 spellcasters. The Queens, the Vipers, and of course the Infestors. And then there's some Broodlords here to keep that, like, Archon army at bay. And then the Corruptors to pick off whatever is abducted. And then some Links and Banes for run-bys. But the majority of the damage here is coming out of the spellcasters. I would love to see a couple more Disruptors added into the mix as well. But I guess the Disruptors, yeah, I say that, but the Disruptors are just gonna get abducted, right? Sarah looks at this and is like, you know what we need? More Spore Crawlers. Let's go. So what exactly, by the way, is the plan right now for Serral? Serral knows the base in the top left is not mining. He knows that he is mining bottom right. Meaning that he is getting an entire extra base worth of stuff right now, right? And that's absolutely huge. These traits, even though, generally speaking, Zerg doesn't trade very efficiently, yeah, they're extremely good for Zerg. Look at that. He's just abducting a unit at a time, trying to deny as much of that mining here as possible, and try to slow down whatever he can. And if he's getting an entire extra base worth of stuff and he can deny his opponent's expansion in the top left, eventually his army is going to be miles bigger, right? Because there's like a lot of resources that can be gathered. One thing that Protoss sometimes do like to do at this point is go for like Dark Templar and like Zealot run-bys and stuff. That would be sweet. Okay, so Max is going to try and take that base. I wonder if Serral is going to try and take an opportunity to strike. Either that or maybe strike the base on the right. Max has got a lot of minerals. So he's adding on a ton of additional photon cannons, which I think is clever. Ultras, though, pretty good at tanking those. Oh, there's a carrier going down. I've seen a lot of free Protoss flyers going down, man. So 1 carrier and 9 Void Rays at this point. Not bad at all. Did I see that correctly, by the way? No Corruptors? No, there are 3 Corruptors. Okay, so only 3 Corruptors have gone down. Ooh, really big fight over here. While most of the Corruptors are distracted on the right side, but the Spore Crawlers, man. The Spore Crawlers are the real MVPs here. Like, the Queens are just transfusing everything, and then the Spores... Yep. This is the downside of when a certain balance patch is around for a long time. Like, these pro players, right? They don't care about playing an exciting game of StarCraft 2. I mean, they care a little bit, but it's not their main goal. Their goal is to win, and they don't really care in what way. As long as it's, you know, gonna obtain the victory in the long run. I mean, Serral's not here to play a good game for us, right? So I know some of you are looking at this and they're like, oh my god, that's so lame. Look, he probably wishes there was a more, you know, exciting playstyle as well. Same right here for MaxPex. MaxPex probably wishes there were varieties in the openers he could go for, so he isn't so forced into Stargate in the mid-game, early game, and late game. But there isn't, so... Can't really blame these guys for playing this style. I mean, maybe you're loving it. It's fun to watch occasionally, but it happens so often. To the point where, right now, I don't cast that much Zerg versus Protoss anymore.
I need to get closer. I can't hear you anymore.
Just because we're waiting until the bases are mined out.
I'm out of range.
So there's a lot of Zerglings burrowed in the top left. By the way, one of the reasons as well why this happens is because of the maps. So we don't even need like balance changes necessarily, but just new maps already would like be an absolute game changer. So a couple of Lings and Banes, as well as an Ultra or two, added into the mix, and they're slowly picking off all of the static defense over here. Serral mixes look very easy. I'm pretty sure he's at a very significant advantage right now. Even just forcing a couple of Void Rays to stay over here is quite nice, right? Yeah, so there's 4 Void Rays right now, not with the main army. Whereas for Zerg, he's only occupying a tiny bit of supply in a couple of Zerglings that are buried here and there. So he's only dedicating about, I don't know, 20 supply or so worth of stuff to run-bys. So it's only a very small amount. But here they go once again. Ooh. Void Arrays right there that were guarding the top left and base also have decided to stick around for a little bit too long. The Corruptors got them picked off. Maybe Max can get something done over here, but the Spore Crawlers are giving this... Yeah, they're slowing down this army so much that at this point the Corruptors are already back home. Zerglings and Ultra killing the base in the top left, and now, oh my god, Cyril. That's just being a bit of a jerk, dude. He decides to grab the base for his own. Well, for obvious reasons, that'd be good. Okay, now this is something we saw Neeb do, right? Rather than making all of the static defense on all of the outer bases, he's decided to just build a bunch of static defense right now in the center of the map. And I think that's really clever, because that's one of the ways you can force the Zerg to fight here. Because now the Tempests are going to be able to be healed up while they're actually fighting over here. Corruptors going into the side. I guess they're going to try and see if they can pick off these these Void Rays. They could even try and puke on the Nexus, to be honest. Not even a terrible idea. But I'm pretty sure he'd rather keep those at home. Okay, base in the top left-hand corner, not going to happen, but obviously Cyril knows that that is not likely to happen. 2 Zerglings here are killing like a dozen workers. Yeah, Cyril's late game is kind of brutal. How do you fight this as Protoss? Oh, there is another 400 minerals and 400 gas down the drain. How do you fight this? I say this as someone who never wins late game Zerg versus Protoss. I'm always in awe about, like, how. Like, I would say, like, 99.9% of the Zerg players out there do not feel comfortable playing late game. But Cyril always just seems, yeah, very in control. Well, still have to be very careful here, though. That Protoss army is lethal. What are the upgrades set, by the way? We missed 1 shields upgrade, which is kind of bad. Not the end of the world, but definitely something easily forgotten. Another mothership is coming in. More Void Rays are being added into the mix. Fungal growth right there on the interceptors, too. Yeah, Cyril just not allowing those expansions, right? So, you can see right now at the banks, at the bottom section of the screen, look at that, max specs. I mean, his army is really expensive. So 9,000 minerals, 6,000 gas, right? He is not even remotely capable of remaking his army, and Cyril can just remax. Plus, all of these traits on top of the interceptors are extremely good for Zerg. Or sorry, all of these traits on top of the Spore Crawlers, when they kill the interceptors, very, very good for Zerg. We haven't really seen that many Oracles in the mix. I would love to see more of like a Tempest Oracle hit squad. I mean, easier said than done, obviously, but oh my god, Cyril. That's so mean, dude. Okay, so the Corruptor squad is just moving around. Okay, that was really good, though, for Max. Getting all of those Vipers to be shut down for at least a little while. Maybe he can capitalize on this right now. Okay, Queen's wandering a little bit too far forward. Okay, he is starting to bite through this forest right now, and that's really nice. Feedbacks. A couple of High Templars, though, do get picked off right there. The Brutes helping out together with the Queens. There's not that much anti-air here in the big picture, right? There's only 18 Corruptors. And here all of a sudden is that Interceptor ball that takes control of the world. Just starts taking care of everything. Mama ship here added into the mix as well. Ultras have come home. Base in the top left right now, by the way. The golden base. I mean, it's not technically gold, I suppose, but it's the most important one here for sure. What was supposed to be one of the Protoss' expos is now one of the Zergs. Max Specs forced to put all of his eggs in one basket, but it's a pretty heavy basket. It's one hell of a basket he's got over here. Okay, that's just, like, why? That's so sloppy. A little bit of miscontrol, I get it, but shouldn't happen. Stasis wards over here too. Like, I mean like the the observer rather just get killed for free. Okay, a couple of free abductions once again. Tempest a little bit too far forward. Sarah was thinking about abducting that one too. Ultras, they do not care about that stuff. A couple of brutes split off from the rest of the pack. Sarah does lose the bottom right base, but he's taking care of some of the static defense over here. And he knows that his opponent is on a timer. Like, this expansion is going to mine out very quickly. There's no other minerals to be seen anywhere. I mean, honestly, Sarah could just make more spore crawlers, which is probably the best thing to do when you have 12,000 minerals in the bank. He's got only 21 larvae, by the way, which is actually an issue. Like, he cannot remax this because he doesn't have enough larvae, which is, yeah, another resource, I guess, to keep in mind. Zerglings fighting everywhere. Dark Templar over in the top left-hand corner, not getting anything done.
Farewell.
Cyril makes late game Zerg versus Protoss look so easy. It's actually wild now. Like, you guys watched more Zerg versus Protoss than just this series, right? Cyril makes it look so broken. It's actually wild. I mean, I'm not counting max packs out just yet, but like, this should be at least 95% a win for Cyril at this point. He's been playing his opponent like a fiddle. Look at that, even a couple Corruptors mixed off from the pack. Normally Void Rays counter Corruptors, but apparently not in this game. Okay, Prismatic Alignment activated. Cyril backs off. He's just adding on Corruptor after Corruptor after Corruptor right now, knowing that the only thing he really needs to deal with is just this Protoss air army. Zerglings burrowed over there once again, by the way, occupying some of those Void Rays. He's adding on drones. I guess he wants some workers in the bottom right, just to mine out those finer minerals. Yeah, so the playstyle is not so much, let's try and win. The playstyle is more so like, I'm gonna bleed you out. Like, that's the playstyle, right? It's like a campaign mission. It's like, hold on to the Protoss for 30 minutes. And try to outmine them. Oh god, okay. Well, you heard that scream? That was, I think, all of the High Templar getting picked off. Fungal Growth, as well as Parasitic Bomb right here on all of these units. No splits here from Maxi Packs. So that does mean that a lot of these units are now being softened up. That being said, it's mostly just the shields that are hurt. So Max Packs could definitely back off. The problem is that by the time he comes back here, this Zerg army is going to be, remaxed once again. Okay, well, there go the Corruptors. They're ready to target fire down and pop every single one of these Skytools units, one at a time. I mean, beautiful game. Like, absolutely beautiful game here by Cyril. Pretty much close to flawless. Cyril's like, listen, kid. Everyone's talking about you. Everyone's saying you're the next big thing when it comes